Hi, everybody. I'm Cynthia Kane, and I am the librarian liaison for your discipline, the School of Library and Information Management. Some of you may have seen me or may have worked with me either online through a Zoom session such as this one, or perhaps face-to-face. Today, I am going to show you in this tutorial how to set up something called a LibGuide, which can be used as a research guide if you have an assignment in one or more of your SLIM classes in which you need to write some type of research guide for a specific audience or a specific discipline. LibGuides are really flexible. The great thing about them is you really don't have to know much about creating a web page or knowing how to do links or anything like that. It's very intuitive. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And we are going to start with the library's webpage first. The reason I'm having us start here is that if you're not familiar with what a research guide looks like, either in print or online, you may wish to browse some of the research guides that we have created here at the library at Emporia State for different types of subjects or disciplines. If you like, you can browse by my last name, and you can also browse by a specific subject such as psychology, art therapy, English, and see what we've created. Let's search by my last name, and what you will see here are different types of research guides that I have created. Some are very specific for classes such as English Composition 2 here at Emporia State, and some are more subject specific, such as this one that I've created for Library and Information Management for your discipline. Let's click on this one. As you can see, this one is fairly bare bones. I really haven't enhanced it as much as I could. But the one thing I can do here is I can show you all, for example, a video tutorial that I recorded to learn how to use the Library Literature and Information Science Full Text Database. Also learning how to search our library catalog, and learning about different electronic resources. I am showing this to you as an example of one type of research guide that can be created for a subject or for a discipline. So if you're ever interested in seeing what I've created or what other librarians have created, be sure to browse this tab. I also have something called Learning How to Create a LibGuide that I will show you toward the end of this tutorial that will give you even more help and more assistance. Now, if you are required to create a LibGuide or a research guide for one or more of your SLIM courses, your professor will already provide you with an ID and a password that is unique to that class, so you would already have that information. I'm going to log in with my account information so that I can walk you through the process and the basics of setting up a LibGuide. The address that you would go to, no matter what, is emporia.libapps.com, which you will see toward the top of the screen. So I'm going to log in with my email address and my login information for this system. Now, when you log in with an ID and a password that you've been given for your class to create a LibGuide, your screen is not going to look exactly the same as mine. So, for example, the only choice that you would have under this admin interface would be LibGuides. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. This is what you would do in your instance as well. We're going to create a guide. And I'm just going to show you some of the basics of setting up the template and then how to put content in for a specific guide. We're going to start fresh, and the first thing you can do is set up your name for that guide. You can always change the name of the guide at any point, so you can put in whatever might be interesting for you. I'm going to do one that actually has to do with something that I've been researching. And you see that I'm going to call my guide name Quitting Smoking, Resources for Health. So this is going to be a guide for people who are interested in quitting smoking and just want to know some different resources that would be out there to help them a little bit more. You can choose the type of guide that you want this to be. In your particular instance, you're probably going to call this either a subject guide or a topic guide, because you're probably going to be doing a guide for a specific audience about a topic or a subject. I'm going to call this one a subject guide. And I'm going to click on Create Guide at this point. Now this looks pretty plain right now, so we're ready to start doing some enhancements. LibGuides works in such a way that these tabs that are at the top of the screen are actually called pages. I think they look more like tabs, but they call them pages in LibGuides. Whenever you click on a plus sign, you can always add another page. And we'll be doing that in just a second. This is my home page. And what I might want to do is add a box that might be an introduction. And this could also be called, why would you want to use this guide? You can do a lot of different things with this. We're going to leave this as a standard box. The reason is that this is now where the most powerful part of LibGuides will take place. We can add what are called different boxes of information that can be all types. One of the most versatile ones, and one that I tend to use pretty often, is this first one that's called Rich Text or HTML. If you've ever done any coding with HTML for a website, this is going to seem a little bit familiar. If you haven't, don't worry about it. You don't need to know this in order to use LibGuides. So I might just start typing some text here that might tell my audience a little bit more about what this guide is about, why people might want to use this. So I can say this guide is designed for people who are interested in quitting the tobacco habit, maybe. To improve their health. That doesn't look terribly exciting. And I know your guides are going to be much more exciting than this, but this just gives you the idea of how this would work. I can save and close. And if I ever want to go back to edit my text, there's always a little pencil here. Also, if I wanted to change the name of this particular box, I could click on this little pencil icon as well. Well, let's start creating some tabs or pages that might be a little bit more exciting. I'm going to call this one now Online Resources. Again, I'm going to save this. And now I can do some different things here. Do you see that I have under here adding boxes for column 1, column 2, or column 3? This can be a useful tool if you want to add information that would be in different columns, maybe to compare and contrast. So for example, I might call this first box Databases. And this could be if I had an audience that had access to electronic databases through my specific library that might help with this topic. This next box I might call Websites. And if I decided that I wanted to add a third box, I could do that here as well. Now remember, I said that we're going to go back and change the types of these boxes. Let's start with databases. If I wanted to link to specific databases from my library, such as what I'm doing right now with William Allen White Library, I could click on Database. And the thing that I love about this is that LibGuides integrates with our electronic resources or electronic databases. So I might want to see about a specific one, such as Medline. Medline is a database that talks about biomedical and health-related journals. I could add a custom description here, and I might say that Medline is a very useful resource for links to articles about medical treatments for quitting smoking. We'll save this, and you can see what this looks like now. And I could add at this point any other databases that might be from William Allen White Library that would help my students or basically help my patrons with their information need. If you're ever working with LibGuides as a system that your specific library subscribes to, if you're working right now in a library, you could use that feature to link to databases that your specific library subscribes to as well. But you can certainly use it for these types of assignments here for the databases that we have. Let's go over here now to websites. And this is where I could add a box called a link. And at this point, I could type in the name of a website that maybe I have found that's useful for quitting smoking, and then copy and paste the URL. So let's go back over here. I'm using Google Chrome, by the way, for my browser, so I can just search from this search bar. And let's do smoking. I'm actually doing smoking cessation because that is another term that can be used for quitting smoking. And when I scroll down here, obviously, as a librarian, I'm looking for credible and reliable websites. Here's one that's from the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, Smoking and Tobacco Use, Quitting Smoking. I'm going to copy this URL, go back to my tab to edit, paste the URL, and I could call this CDC Smoking and Tobacco Use Fact Sheet, whatever the name of the particular website happens to be. And down here I could put a little description again about what this website is about, why it might be useful. On this window target, I tend to want a link when my patron clicks on that to open in a new window, so I change the target. Let's save this. And again, you see what this looks like. So I could keep adding any other types of information that I would want. Let's open up one more tab. And I'm going to call this tab Video, or Videos, because I want to show you something else that you can do. Again, I could do a top box or add some columns. A bottom box would be just that. It would appear at the bottom of the page. Let's just go back to add top box. And this time, I'm going to call this Smoking Cessation Videos. You always have to name a box something, and again, you can always go back and change that name. This time, I am going to go to Media or Widget. This is something that I absolutely love to do. I'm going to go back to this tab that I was searching, and this time, let's go to YouTube. I'm going to search now for maybe a video that might be interesting about smoking cessation or quitting smoking. And you see there's a lot of things that I could do. Well, again, being a good librarian, I would want to find something that hopefully is credible and reliable. You can see there are a lot of different videos out here on YouTube that talk about quitting smoking, such as hypnotherapy, tips for former smokers, and so forth. Here's one, and it looks like it's something called From the Smoking Cessation Trust. Now that looks a little bit ominous, but you know what? It might help my patron. I am going to go down to Share, and under Embed, I'm actually copying the embedding code because when I go back to my tab here, I can paste the embed code. That was something called Reggie's Story. And I could say that that was from the Smoking Cessation Trust. Let's leave that at the top of the box. And you see, now that's already been embedded. And as you can tell, I didn't have to know anything about HTML coding or anything like that. I just had to look for copying and pasting an embed code. So again, there's a lot of different things that you can do when you're creating this particular LibGuide. Up here, you're going to see that this is unpublished. And as long as the LibGuide is unpublished, you're going to be the only one who actually sees it. Nobody else can see that. The great thing about that is that when you click on this little eye, this will let you preview what your guide looks like so far. And you can jazz this up a little bit. Again, this is a rather basic one that I'm doing. But the good thing about this, let's close this tab and go back to my editing. So I'm back here on editing. Again, there are a lot of different things that we can wind up doing. We can change the guide layout. And under settings, you probably aren't going to have to worry about anything like this. If you wanted to change the type of guide from a subject guide to something else, you could do that at this point. But something I want to show you now is editing the URL for the guide. Now, notice that there are some characters here that are a little bit hard to remember. We're going to change this to a more friendly URL that somebody could actually remember. So I can say that I want this one to be quit smoking. It's saving and refreshing. The first part of your URL will always be emporia.beta.libguides.com, but then where I changed this on the second level to quit smoking, that's now a little bit more of a friendly URL that somebody could remember and easier to give out if you wanted somebody to take a look at this. Again, there's just a lot of different things that you can do here. When I click on page, this is where I can actually reorder different pages. So I might want my videos to be above my online resources. Sometimes that wants to work and sometimes it doesn't. We're going to go ahead and cancel that. But I could do some reordering if I wanted to. Again, with the layout, this is where I could change my entire guide to maybe 2 columns or 3 columns. And I could also do that per page. Again, it just depends on what you want to do. And you can play around with these things and do as much as you want. If I go back to, I'm going to leave it on this page. There's another link here to add and reorder. And when I scroll down here, I could add a link to Google search. If I were to go back to my rich text in HTML, I can add different pictures or images. If I click on this link called image, if you have a URL for an image or a picture that's available online, freely available through Creative Commons, you can paste in the URL here. And you can also do that on this point. Now, when I clicked on link though, if I click on Browse Server, I want to show you one more thing on here. LibGuides will let you upload an image into its library. So let's say you have a photo that you took that you would want to upload onto your guide, again, to jazz it up a little bit. You could do that by uploading a new image from your computer, or if you found a picture, again, that was freely available and free of copyright, free of any copyright restrictions, you might save that to your computer, and then you can upload that as well. You could save it and then use the newly uploaded image in your page. So you can upload different pictures again and resize them. And I'm going to close this, and we're going to close this for now. Well, so far I've showed you some different things on how you can customize a LibGuide. For any assignment that you would be using for a LibGuide for your SLIM classes, when you get ready to basically publish or send your guide, you're going to actually leave it as private. And the reason is that the private guide will not show publicly on our library's webpage, but it will show for anyone who has the URL that you have created. So if I updated my guide status, this is now a private guide. But then if I copied and pasted this URL, I could send that to my professor, and I could also share that on campus for other students maybe to see and comment on if you're doing any type of peer review of your guides. So you'll always leave that as private. Another thing I wanted to mention is we leave these guides, even though they're private, on our LibGuides server. So if you need to create a portfolio for your capstone course for SLIM, which probably you will do to showcase your best work, if you still have your URL for your guide, if you remember it, you can put that into your electronic portfolio. If you have forgotten it, email me, and I'll make sure that you have my email when we end. And you can see my email up here, which is ckane1@emporia.edu. I can always go back into our LibGuide server, and I can send you the URL for your specific guide. So it's always going to be there, and you can share that as some of your best work in your electronic portfolio. Essentially, that's a lot of the basics on creating a LibGuide. The last thing I wanted to leave you with is this link, emporia.beta.libguides.com/creating. A lot of what I've talked about and more detailed information is in this guide on learning how to create a LibGuide and then how to create different structures, what different boxes will do. But I wanted to end by showing you this tab for more help. LibGuides is part of a larger system that's called SpringShare. And SpringShare is wonderful about sharing their information freely, what different libraries have created. I would really encourage you to use this link. And if you click on all products, click on LibGuides version 2. This is what we're using. And this will link you to an incredible number of academic, special, and public libraries that are using LibGuides version 2. And you can get some great ideas from them on their guides, what their guides look like and what they've already done. So if I were to go to Alabama State University, it looks like they have quite a few subject-specific guides. So I might want to see in counseling, for example. These are examples of guides that have been created for specific courses, and it looks like this one might be a more general guide for counseling resources. So you see they've done a lot of different things. You can change colors on your tab. This is a good example, too, of a 3-column LibGuide. So you have column 1, column 2, and column 3 for a little bit more information. Browse these, get some ideas. You can even sketch out on paper what you want your guide to look like, and then just go from there. And as I've already mentioned, as we go back into this tab, you can keep editing your guide, and even after you've published your guide as private, you can still go back and tweak it and edit it. And don't forget about that little preview feature to see what that looks like. I hope this video has helped you. Again, email me at ckane1@emporia.edu if you have any questions or any issues about creating a LibGuide, and I'll be happy to help you. And good luck.